The thing that I've really liked about the center is it brings in the human dimension. So much of the scientific work is necessary but not sufficient. It's the human dimension that actually brings everything together. It doesn't do any good to come up with the greatest solution in the world if nobody's going to implement it. And without understanding the social structure, the fabric of the watershed, it's not going to happen. And that's one of the real beauties of this project, is it brings that into context and offers the opportunity for understanding why people do some of the things they do, how one might go about changing that, and what are the motivating and driving factors.
Nutrient pollution of water has been described as a wicked problem, one that occurs at various spatial scales over long reaches of time and has multiple and often diffuse causes and effects. It is a difficult problem to solve.
Most of our work as a nation in protecting water quality over the years has been primarily to protect human health, to enable people to go fishing and swimming in streams. Well, we have other problems, and that's runoff from agricultural land, forest land, other lands that carry nutrients into water.
Jim sent out an article that was talking about wicked problems. So the more you look into it, the more problems you discover and the more things that you need to figure out along the way. And I think this falls into that.
There are multiple sources of nutrient pollution, multiple actors involved, and multiple drivers: environmental, societal, political, and economic. Problems like nutrient pollution require complex, multidisciplinary approaches to problem solving.
We have a lot of different researchers and a lot of different stakeholders coming together from the various parts of this wicked problem.
Nutrients are plant nutrients, the things we give plants to help them grow. But when they get into water, they also stimulate plant growth in water, which leads to an array of ecological problems. So we have this mass flow of nutrients into our region through air, fertilizer, feed, and essentially what we're having to do is address the problems that occur in this watershed. We're not just going to solve the nutrient problem, we need to do it in a way that takes care of our agriculture and other interests, because it is a multi-objective problem. We have a lot of societal interests that are involved here.
Shared discovery for us is where there's a very open dialogue between the researchers, staff, stakeholders in the project, and even sometimes the general public. So we try to figure out a forum where we can speak to each other openly, respectfully, and develop those ideas together. The Community Partners Council is an important part of our shared discovery process. Those are folks we brought together to enter into this conversation.
The Council is made up of leaders in nutrient management policy and practice. They include members of government agencies, conservation districts, agricultural industry, and conservation organizations. Researchers meet regularly with these partners to help guide the research and ensure the tools developed will be useful to watershed decision makers.
Make sure that we are understanding what the stakeholders need.
I think it's really beneficial to get everyone to interact, to get awareness out there, and to help the researchers know exactly what's relevant to the people and the stakeholders, to try to understand and find solutions that are really implementable and solve the problems.
The Center for Nutrient Solutions is an EPA-funded center to look at solutions to nutrient pollution problems. So nutrient pollution really is the leading water quality problem we have these days in the U.S. And many communities want to address the problem in their watersheds, but they do not have the tools they need to do that. So what we're trying to do is develop tools that will help them out at the community watershed scale.
As much as it's the percentage of all
The research of the Center for Nutrient Solutions is being tested in 4 pilot watersheds: Spring Creek, Mahantango Creek, and Conewago Creek in Pennsylvania, and the Minokan River on Maryland's eastern shore. In each of these watersheds, different scenarios for solving the nutrient pollution problem are shared with watershed stakeholders, providing them with valuable information to evaluate trade-offs and make better, more strategic watershed management decisions.
With our scenarios that we develop along with our stakeholders, what are realistic best management practices or other solutions that we can bring to the table, to bring to the land, to put in very strategic places in the watershed and hopefully get the maximum reduction of nutrients and sediments that are affecting aquatic ecosystems.
This is an adult riffle beetle.
And what we have are people who bring together various expertises that are needed to solve these nutrient problems. So we have aquatic ecologists, economists, lawyers, hydrologists, modelers, soil scientists, plant scientists, so a whole spectrum of people that are really needed to do this. So we always have limited resources to solve problems. So you have to figure out where to put your efforts and exactly how to exert your efforts. So prioritization tools will very much be about what particular practices should we use in a watershed and where should we use them.
The center uses several models to evaluate baseline conditions in each of the study watersheds and compare them to the nutrient pollution solution scenarios being developed collectively by the researchers and stakeholders. The models will yield estimates of nutrient load reductions achieved from implementing a variety of best management practices on the landscape. For example, conversion of conventional tillage to a no-till and cover crop system, or transforming the riparian area along a stream by planting a forest riparian buffer. The models will also allow researchers to determine where in a watershed the nutrients are generated. This is critical information, which allows local watershed managers to make strategic decisions on where to focus limited resources to solve the nutrient pollution problem.
The center is going to use a number of tools that are going to allow much finer resolution at the farm to watershed level than the current Chesapeake Bay program can use in its modeling. Through the modeling exercises that will be done, that spatially explicit appropriate BMPs to the hottest spots, to the most nutrient rich, the most sediment, highest sediment delivery. You set up the appropriate BMP that would minimize that nutrient and sediment input, and with some of the economists in this project, we'd be selecting practices that are least expensive.
We will also look at sort of systemic causes. So I noted that we get some of our nutrients from airborne pollutants that come from other places, and so there are changes in those that go on over time. Understanding the implications of those that would be important to those watersheds, and then really thinking about how the structure of agriculture in a watershed or in a region is influencing the problems is really kind of important at a systems level. So we do have an agricultural system that brings nutrients in feed from the Midwest to the Mid-Atlantic. And that's really about the agricultural system, and that system is part of what drives our problem.
An important task that we're trying to do is establish a baseline of condition, both at the reach scale and at the watershed scale. We're trying to integrate the modeling results of nutrient and sediment yields at those same scales with the ecological monitoring results and try to build relationships so that we can better predict the outcome of a scenario.
So one of the tools we are developing to help communities decide on practices is a ecosystem valuation tool where they can say, well, if we put this practice in this place, these are the kinds of ecosystem services we'll get, these are the values.
Our group is getting the best information, involving stakeholders, and showing how communities can help make those decisions themselves.
I'm excited about the work that's being done here because it's directly applicable to the models that we're building for management in the Chesapeake Bay. We are specifically developing our next version of watershed models to incorporate the type of science that's being done at places like the Center for Nutrient Solutions.
I think the work that we're doing with the Nutrient Center is really important because it's this process of shared discovery, working with stakeholders in the community and communicating with them the importance of some of these wicked problems that we're all trying to address with non-point source pollution. And so this helps to find solutions that are acceptable to both the public and to those of us who do research. So I think it's the process that matters, and that'll be really helpful.
To learn more about the Center for Nutrient Solutions, visit cns.psu.edu.